everyone. Welcome to the Fullerton Museum Center. Oh, that was a good quiet. I'll warn you, I am the museum lady. I give the school tours along with our docents, so don't get out of line. On behalf of the Fullerton Museum Center Board of Trustees and staff, welcome to our We Play Ball luncheon and presentation. We're delighted to see such a great audience. And before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to know if we have any players in the audience from the All-American League or other women's baseball leagues. If you can please stand up and be recognized. Your heritage today, and also the young players and the future of women's baseball too. So thank you very much for being here. We have some very distinguished speakers today. I'd like to introduce our first one. This is Jean Ardell, originally from Queens. Baseball and literature have been the two loves of her life, and she has managed to combine them in her books, including Breaking into Baseball, Women in the National Pastime. Jean has presented at the Los Angeles Angels Fan Club, University of San Francisco, the Society for American Baseball Research, and the Cooperstown Symposium on Baseball and American Culture, as well as other venues. So we're very, very delighted and honored to have Jean Ardell, who will be taking over at this point and introducing our other distinguished speakers. So please give a warm welcome to Jean Ardell.
To see such a good turnout for this subject. Welcome. We only have an hour, correct, Amy, for this conversation, so I'm going to keep my comments short because we'd also like to hear from you and know what you want to talk about. Awe is not too strong a word for the way I feel about the women of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, and also the girls that are striving to play today. How many people saw the article in last Sunday's New York Times? You missed one. It's called Challenges for Girls Playing High School Baseball. And it detailed the struggles of a Southern California high school sophomore, she lives in Burbank, Marnie Santelli. And her father, which is part of the conversation I'd like to have today, is right behind her daughter and making sure that she gets to play baseball. Anyway, if you had read this article, you would understand some of the challenges that kids face today, girls that want to play hardball and not softball. Also, this January, it was announced that the Indiana High School Athletic Association, in an emergency ruling, which meant that they were being sued by another girl's father, dropped the ban on trying out for boys baseball in schools that also offer softball. This has to do with Title IX, and maybe we can get into it when we have the conversation later. It's interesting that this story comes out of that particular state, Indiana, because in 1928, 14-year-old Margaret Gieselow was playing for her American Legion baseball team, boys baseball team, and doing quite well. They got into the tournament and they went quite far. And as her opponent, the opposing teams were beaten along the way, they protested. And ultimately, the baseball commissioner at the time, for some reason, was given the chance to rule on whether she could continue playing. And he discovered that American Legion baseball didn't fathom the idea of a girl playing, so they had no rule against it. So she was able to continue playing that season. In short order, the American Legion changed that rule in 1929, and it stayed on the books that girls couldn't play American Legion baseball until 1975. So that was 80 years ago, and in Indiana, they're still fighting the battle as they are in so many other states. Anyway, we have with us today two women who have something to say on the subject. They were there 6 decades ago. Shirley Burkovich and Maybelle Blair played in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. I find the story of the league quintessentially American. People who are told they absolutely cannot do something and find a way to do it with grace and with style. Maybelle Blair was born in El Segundo in 1927. Is it Bluesinger High School? She received the Best Athlete Award and was president of the Girls Athletic Association. She played every sport available to girls in her high school before playing professional softball for the Chicago Cardinals. So she's played both sports. In 1948, she appeared in a game for the Peoria Red Wings of the league. Right-handed pitcher, batted right. Later played softball for the New Orleans Jacks. And she was one of the first female managers at Northrop, manager of highway transportation. And one of the things I discovered in my research is that women that did something intrepid, like playing baseball in the early years of the last century, often went on to do something else that was deemed unacceptable or couldn't be done by a woman, and broke new ground in a number of careers. Shirley Burkovich grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She signed at the age of 16 in 1949 and was a utility player with the Muskegon Lassies and the Rockford Peaches. She hoped to make baseball her career, but when the league was disbanded, she went to work for Pacific Bell. So, welcome, Maybelle and Shirley. Oh, please remind me before we break at the end of this, I have a request from a baseball researcher on something to do with women in baseball that I'd like to put out in case somebody knows about it, but I don't want to take time from our discussion. Panelists, in the New York Times article, Marty Sementelli equated softball and baseball as being the equivalent of ping pong and versus tennis. How did you see the two games? By the time you played for the league, they were playing full-on baseball. But in their early years, the league was playing softball, and then it morphed into several different aspects of hybrid.
Correct.
Yeah.
It did start out as softball. I think it was only 1 year we played softball, and then went into the 10-inch ball, which made it a little bit smaller ball. And by the time the league ended, and when it did end, they were down to major league size baseball, which is the 9 3/4-inch ball.
Can you hear? Does she need to get the mic?
Yes.
Do you get the mic? Don't get the mic?
Yes, get the mic. Get the mic. Strike one.
What's interesting about the league is, as you just alluded to, is that they went through various incarnations of softball into baseball. Today we live in an area of specialization, and we always say, well, if I do one, I can't do the other. And I've heard a lot of young players say, well, I don't like softball because I can't play it well. I can play baseball, and vice versa. And then we've had baseball players come in, professional people, and whiff at softball. They're two different kinds of sport. So I'd like your comments on, what you heard from your fellow players who had been there when they were playing softball. What do you think? Was it that hard to move around?
Oh, I don't think so. I think if a ball's a ball. If you can catch, you can catch. If you hit, you can hit. And I didn't see much difference whatsoever. The hardest part was that the bases were longer, and it was harder, especially for the catchers, to throw from pitching position to second base. I saw that as the main object, and sometimes for the third baseman having to throw the long ball across the field. But what about you, Pancho? Do you see any difference? You played both sports.
Yeah, I used to play for the Orange Lionettes.
Do you see much difference?
Not really.
No.
It's just, you just have to go a little harder.
That's it. And actually it's easier because the ball's smaller. And the larger ball is naturally harder to throw. I see that's the only difference I can see.
I can't make a comparison
comparison because I never played softball. I only played baseball. Played with the boys, and we played. But there was no girls softball at that time, so I can't really compare.
What do you think would be lost by having intensely supervised children's sports?
Oh my God, I think we should have supervised sports and everything myself. Because you learn the right way and there's the wrong way. And as I was sitting down here, I was talking to a young girl that is now going around teaching softball, and that's what she does for a living. And she says, you know, there's the right way and the wrong way. And this is absolutely right, because if you get in bad habits, I don't care what it is. It can be ping pong, tiddlywinks, sweeping the floor, or washing the dishes. If you don't do it the right way, it's wrong. So there's only one way, and that's the right way, and that's the way you should be taught.
Audience, do you have any comments on that? Yes.
Just one. Softball is a little faster than hardball. It's a faster game.
Softball?
Much faster.
Baseball.
Much faster than baseball.
It's very limited.
And actually, depending, now, I don't even know today what the distance is between the pitcher mound and the plate. What is it now in softball?
46.
What?
46.
46? There was 1 year, you can imagine how hard those pitchers pitched. It was 37.5 feet. And it was a very fast game.
How terrifying was that?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Yes.
You played softball and basketball or baseball. The pitching style is obviously different between the two. Did softball pitchers, was it easier for them to become baseball pitchers just because they're stronger, or was it a completely different motion?
It was a different motion.
Yes, it's an entirely different.
That's an entirely different motion.
Yes, so
going underhand and
was it
overhand.
automatic?
Yeah, a lot of your softball pitchers could not turn into baseball pitchers.
Okay.
Because they didn't have the same motion and what
I
have you.
think it would be very hard to.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a big difference.
Okay.
Big difference, underhand and overhand, believe me.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Relatively speaking, do the underhanded pitchers and softball pitchers throw faster or slower than an overhand pitcher?
Well, it depends on the pitcher.
Yeah.
But again, you're a lot closer to the batter underhand, and of course, if you get somebody like Nolan Ryan, nobody's going to hit you anyway. So it doesn't matter if it's softball or hardball. It's relevant to what you're actually playing. My old blabbermouth here, I can go on for hours.
I'm waiting for the baseball question.
When you played softball, did you have a 60-foot base pass, or did you have the 90 back before you played baseball? 60. You have 60, which is a faster game simply because you have to get the first base pass, or you have to get the throw.
Well, it's the
over
same
there.
thing, though.
Right. Right. Okay, but that's why it was tough to go to 90-foot base pass in baseball.
Yeah.
Because you were used to a quicker game. Now you have a longer throw and more time for the ball to get to you, plus longer running in first base.
True. Absolutely true.
Shirley's wanting to talk about baseball, and one thing that comes to mind to me is the fact that the baseball diamond has not changed in size. And somebody alluded to the fact that throwing from third or deep short in the 1940s for a women player would have been hard with 90-foot base paths.
True.
However, a few years ago, I think it was in USA Today Sports Weekly, I'm not sure which newspaper it was, they had a picture of a home run slugger from the 60s, Harmon Killebrew, who was strapping for his time. He was standing between two female volleyball players who were literally towered over him. The point is that, and I've heard this from some of the women that are playing today, they're bigger and beefier, if you will, than, people are just taller today in this country. And I once heard a woman playing baseball in Phoenix, and she said, throwing some deep short from deep short is improper for us. We don't even think about it. So in that regard, women can play today on a diamond. Okay, you have something to say.
Well, my opinion, and this is only an opinion, is I do not believe a girl can play a good enough baseball to really show off at a 90-foot basis. I think they should make the base paths shorter for women if they want to play baseball. I truly believe this. I think they should go back to our league rules at our size, not the regular men's size, and play baseball. But the bases at 90 foot, the catcher throwing, sitting down, trying to squat and throw down the second base, he just can't do it. I mean, at 90 foot, at any speed is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
They can do a lot of dewdrops over to first base and things like this, but to me, I can't see it. What about you, Nina?
Is that what you tended to see when the silver bullets came out? Is that like back when they started to play baseball? Back in, 96, whenever they came out and tried to bring it all back.
Yeah, it's too
Is that what you saw?
Yes.
Because that's what I saw watching those games.
Right.
Like we could, if the field was smaller, the bases were shorter, we could compete with them.
We can do it.
But at the 90 foot, we couldn't compete straight-wise.
You're
absolutely right. That's what I think. You're thinking like I'm thinking.
Well, then how about David Eckstein?
Still stronger than
Look at me, why should you throw from deep short? And
He still has a problem.
come on, get it over.
I also look at our body, and my forearms compared to a man's forearms, arm strength-wise, nothing. My back speed, not comparable. And I trained with Barry Bonds for a long time, for two full years during spring training, and I couldn't compete. I couldn't come close to any of those guys. They're smallest guy out there. Strength-wise, hitting anything.
We're just not built like that. And that's,
Frankly, I don't want to be compared to a man.
that's
So were the silver bullets going to stay the way they were fielded?
I think so.
Yes.
But I even look at the women's professional league that came out in, 96, around that same time?
97.
And they were trying to figure out base paths and, how to throw and pick people off. And it still didn't work, and we're still struggling with softball today to keep a program, to be able to keep it around. I would like for discussions like this to happen all over the United States, just for the fact that we don't have a sport, and the role models for these young kids, they're not there anymore. We got our softball taken out of the Olympics. Baseball's no longer around. We're having kids still not being able to play baseball out there or softball. And just because there's softball, you have to play it. It's just not right, but we don't have enough either. Going on for those kids.
See, I think the silver bullets went bounded in a wrong way. They had hundreds of girls come out to try out for that team, and then they turned it into a men's league. They played against men, and that I don't think is. I know that's not what I wanted. I wanted to see another league like we had, and they had enough girls that came out to try out that they could have made 4 teams. They could have made 4 women's teams and took those women's teams around the country and showcased baseball for women and bring those bases in.
Bring them in.
And make and have them play the 85-foot bases, and it just made an altogether better game for women.
But one thing about the silver bullets is that they simply carried on a tradition that was 100 years old. And that's Bob Hope, not the comedian, but the man who organized the silver bullets, was a promoter. And he saw the novelty of it. He saw money to be made, but he may not have seen what he did to the idea of girls and women playing baseball. And 100 years ago, the same thing was going on. As baseball was becoming popular, promoters came in and said, hey, we'll field a women's team. And they marched around the country. It's in the exhibit in the museum here. But it was spectacle more than it was sport. And to some extent, we haven't lost that. And the beauty of the league is that a lot of people found out that women can play credible baseball.
Definitely.
It was not a spectacle.
definitely, especially at our base paths that we play.
Yeah, okay.
That's the difference.
Someone, yes.
I'll give you an example of today's world. I've been coordinating the youth clinics for the Angels for the last 7 years. And for the last 7 years, I've had these ladies out to the clinics. And they've come out to the baseball. The first year we did it, I had to take the Angels. The Angels actually had Angel players and coaches at these clinics, at their field in the stadium. And they literally wanted us to do girls and boys with Angel players. And I had the same thing with the Dodgers when I used to do the Dodger clinics, where I had to sit the Angels down and explain to the Angels that we need to break up baseball and softball to boys and girls, and we need separate days because we needed to bring in separate staff. We needed to bring in training facility. Angel players and former Angel players and all their coaches can teach baseball. Excellent. But when it came to softball, there is no leadoffs. There is a lot of differences in that. Like I said, that 60-foot game is so much faster. They have to release the ball, shorter distance to first base and that, to where I had to bring in staff. But this young lady next to me is my daughter. She's three-time world champion for the U.S. national softball team. World champion, ISF World Championship gold medalist. She knows about softball because she grew up in the softball world, and all the girls in the Silver Bullets she played with, she competed against. And she knows the level was not able, they're not able to compete boy to girl. It's just a man thing because men are beefier. Even X-Time. X-Time can build muscle tone and muscles that a woman can't no matter what she does. Okay? So it's a different world. So we're working now, we've got it to where we actually bring in staff for softball and baseball. And these ladies come to both of them because they're so gracious to come out and, share their time with us.
So you're saying you have boys and girls playing baseball?
No. The girls don't play baseball, and it's for the RBI, the Inner City League.
Yeah.
But girls won't even show up because they're not allowed to play outside of Little League. They don't come. Maybe if their little brother's out there and I say, hey, do you play? Oh, but I play softball. Well, get out here, let's play ball, play catch with me. And these ladies do the same thing out there. But a lot of times, because we aren't given that opportunity, I remember wanting to play football growing up. Can't play. You're a girl. You're not allowed to do that. And for me, I played at a college that Title IX is huge at. Fresno State, Marjorie Wright, huge on Title IX. And, you have to stand up for the right things. And for me, unfortunately, I work with young kids every week. And giving them the opportunity to meet people like them, to see that, if you want to play baseball, go play baseball. If you want to play softball, go play softball. But recognize that there is a difference between the two things because I put myself in that situation, working, with the men. And I lift with Barry Bonds every day, and I know he's got his issues right now. But that man lifts very different than any other athlete out there that does go to a gym and lift. So my strength, lifting, and doing the exact same thing he did, I couldn't compare. Day to day.
Yeah. And at the youth level, under 12, say?
Could they, I think we can compete. You see that every so often during the Little League World Series. And we get a girl every now and then that snuck her way in that actually had the talent and the politics of that did get in. But a lot of times I think we get shoved out to the side because of the politics of the parents,
Well, Iowa Borders would tell you that. And she had 18 home runs when she was 12 years old in her Little League team. She was MVP, and it was the team that went into the regionals. So at that age, but she had to turn to pitching.
Girls are bigger than boys at that age.
Yeah.
And then all of a
It all
sudden,
goes out the window.
They start getting them out.
Yeah.
Because I have a boy and a girl, fraternal twins. And the boy used to be the small one, and they're 13 now. And now he's towering over little Steffi, and there's no comparison in his strength versus hers now.
Yeah.
Finesse, there. But strength, no longer there with an 8.
Yes.
And I don't know whether it is still in effect, but in men's professional baseball, way back, they had a clause that men professional in your big leagues were not allowed to play softball because the two things were so different. And there was a pitcher named, ball player named Lou Noble, and he played softball under Louis Neal, and he played hardball in the professionals under Novikov or vice versa. By this time, I haven't gotten which we switched. and he's from Los Angeles, and I think it is still in the Major League Baseball. It may still be that they cannot play those two sports at the same time. Yeah. Because it interferes with the way they play, because you have to play softball different. In fact, there was only really, maybe there's some of you ladies, I know you remember her, but that actually, as a young lady, could really compete all the way with men, and that was Kay Rohr. Do any of you remember Kay Rohr?
Yeah, very well.
Yes. And she
That'll
played,
date you.
and she, yes, it dates me, but she could play equally and did play on the, in the, what was that league you were talking about?
Summer bullets.
Semi-pro league, and we wanted her to play, the rules and that were there, but she was the only one that I've ever seen that could stay there and play day after day, hardball with the men, and she was the same way with softball. I think most of you ladies remember Kay Rohr.
Well, I like your idea, and I agree with it, about 4 women's teams that would barnstorm country on an appropriate field, and show the world what they can do. My feeling is that Major League Baseball should fund that. But that's not a popular on Park Avenue, New York. Yes, yes. We also have with us Helen Hannah Campbell, who has wonderful stories to tell if you ever sit with her. She's a good time. I've got time for you. So, she was a chaperone in the league. And you want to take my microphone?
We can take this one.
Okay.
Oh, goody.
Thanks for your courtesies. What do you want to know? My name is Helen Hannah Campbell. My father was Harry Truck Hammond with the New York Yankees with Babe Ruth.
Want to touch me?
Anyway, he was very proud of me when I was with the All-American Girls. I was back there 6 years. And you should have seen me when I came out. But I had some funny stories to tell.
Not those.
Oh, not those stories, okay. Those will come out in the Christmas issue. But what do you want to know about me? I'm old. I'm 93. What'd you say? What?
You have a question back.
Oh, I can't see her. What's the question?
The question is, I guess I'm a 50-year-old who competed in boys teams in high school because GAA wasn't put together and things like that. Went into the military. I'm sorry for the American Legion. We're still not there yet, but I am the commander in town, so we are making a lot of progress with bringing women into the forefront. But I think as I've gotten older, I realized that it isn't about competing against men. It's about men supporting women in being what they want to be. And when I watched A League of Their Own, what I got from that was a tremendous outpouring of love and concern in helping women to be the best that they can be. As a 50-year-old, I need to know that you went on and you had other things in your life that were important to you, that I know you worked just as hard. When you opened your statement about trendsetters, it is one of those things where wherever we are planted, we do what we can to be the best at what we're doing. So did you go on to have families and children who still revel in your accomplishments as a successful ladies?
Well, by the time I met these girls, I had just spent 30 years in the Marine Corps, and so they weren't going to get away with anything with me.
Talk a little bit about your father and his influence on you to be able to go out and be in the Marines for 30 years.
Well, I was
and
an only child, and so he didn't influence me, but he gave me my purse straps. He put me through college, and I was with the Wrigley Company for a number of years. And then when I got into the baseball angle of it, he said, go. And by that time I was too old. If you think I'm old now, you should have seen me then. But anyway, here I am, and I'm 93, and my two favorites up there. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them afterwards, because...
Yes, sir.
You know, I came today for all kinds of reasons, and I've enjoyed it all. And is it okay, seriously, if we change gears a little bit? I'd like to hear from each of you three the most fun you ever had playing against the highest competition, whether it's Hall of Fame bids, major leaguers, and what stadiums you got to visit and play in and barnstorm in. Stories like that you might want to share if you have any.
How many years have you got?
I would love to hear if you guys played at Evans Field or Yankee Stadium and this sort of thing.
Well, because I wasn't a player, I'm not in a position to answer that, but if you've got a year or two, I've got a couple of stories.
Okay. Did you guys ever get a chance to play in exhibitions against players that everybody's heard of and things like that? No, never. Always. All right.
However, I'll tell you one story considered the Muskegon Lassies where we were. My manager, the first year I was back there, I had 3 managers when I was there. The first year, his name was, when you get to be this age, you forget.
The nouns go first. The nouns go first, they say. Go ahead and take your time.
Remember?
Yes.
He was from Cleveland, and he executed the only unassisted triple play in World Series history. And remember that. That's a good question. Carson Pickett. How did he do it? Yeah, one person down. Nobody out, of course. Hit and run. The runners were going from second to third, from first to second. The ball was a strike, and the catcher threw right over the pitcher's head to make the play at second base. So the strike instituted the first out. The catcher threw to second base, and the second baseman was there. Second out. The runner coming from first to second just stood there and awe and looked at the
Okay, a highlight. Thank you, Helen. A highlight, Maybelle, for you playing ball.
The highlight for me was putting on the uniform. The first time, and you just feel like, oh boy, isn't this neat? Don't I look cute in this uniform?
How old were you?
I was about 2.
Not much more, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. And there are so many stories, and actually you really look back on your life. The most thrilling thing for us was when we were inducted into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. That was quite a thrill. And then later on in when was it, Shirley? We had the statue. In fact, we were just there, 06. They put the statue of us in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame. And anybody would like to have one of these calendars, by the way, every girl's picture that ever played in the league is in here. And we got it for $5, and what we're doing is selling them, and we give it to the girls, a fund for the old ladies that can't afford to go to our reunions. We just got off of a cruise. And if anybody's interested in one of these, all the girls here, I'm sure Pancho, you wouldn't mind signing, we'd sign it for you and let you have it for $5. But anyway, did any of you see the League of Their Own? Hey, did you know, let me tell you something. You know that ball that the movie stars are playing with? You know what that was? It was a tennis ball covered in horsehide so they wouldn't get hurt. Yeah. And do you know how Madonna was hitting those balls? You have no clue, do you? Well, I wouldn't have had a clue either unless I saw it. And what it was this two guys standing behind her with a slingshot, with this baseball covered in horsehide, tennis ball covered in horsehide. And as she swung, my God, that ball just flew out of the ball. Boy, she was quite talented, wasn't she? And another thing, you saw Madonna standing up, catching the ball, in the outfield, leaping up against the wall, like this. Well, the guy was standing about as far as for me at the end of this table, threw it up in the air, and it landed in her neck. She was spastic, believe me. She could not play a lick. If you ever saw a girl throw a ball, well, she couldn't even do that. It was more like this. It was actually terrible. And as long as we're up, you want to hear some more? Okay, if it's okay, how much time do we have? Oh, okay. Anyway, you know Madonna. You've heard of her, haven't you? Well, I'll tell you, everybody either like her, you hate her, you don't have an opinion, or she could live or die, you wouldn't care. But anyway, during the film making, you saw her slide into third base, didn't you? Oh my God. You don't know what took place. Believe me, that was her doing that, by the way. No stand-in, nothing. That was plain old Madonna. Well, she'd get between third base and second base, or second base between third, and Penny Marshall would say, "Okay, Madonna, I want you to get out there and do that again." Well, and here she'd go. Ooh. And you know, girls, we do have a problem up there when it doesn't feel exactly too good sometimes, but we'd always brush it off and think, oh well, next time. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, 12 times later, Penny Marshall said, "Well, Madonna, you finally got something right, didn't you?" And Madonna didn't say one word. She was quite a troopy. She brushed herself off and smiled and nodded and went on. But it took 12 times to do that. But something that has really bothered me about this whole situation is that they had one of our girls speak in the movie while we were making it. Well, you know who that was? Shirley. It should have been me. And the part was, "Oh, Dottie, I am so happy to see you." And you know, it took me about 3 seconds to memorize that. It took her a whole week. Oh, Dottie, it's so nice to see you. Isn't that pitiful? I'm still mad because she's still getting royalties from that movie. She hasn't bought me a darn hamburger, and I was the one that had a darn part. So that upsets me. I'm telling you. And one other thing I gotta say, and I'm going to tell you about, you know Tom Hanks. He's quite a character, right? Well, he said, about making the movie, he said, this is the best movie I've ever made, due to the fact I can eat what I want to, I get as fat as I want to, and I don't have to shave. So it was really funny out at Wrigley Field, there in Chicago. In the old days, remember how you used to have to leap out and hang up numbers for your runs and your scores and all of that? Well, they had that little hole open. And he got the fungo bat out, and he was trying to hit his ball up in through that hole. And he tried, and he tried, and he tried. Well, he finally got one in that little hole. Well, the guy standing back behind there didn't think that was very funny, because it hit him. Well, what he did, now fellas, was pull that girls. He pulled down his britches and mooned Tom right through that hole. And Tom thought that was the funniest thing. He laid down and just rolled up. But anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I know my time's limited. But Shirley wants to rebut my statement about I shouldn't have that part, I can tell.
I wouldn't do that, Maybelle. Anyway, no, as Maybelle said, it was just a great experience for all of us. I think all the gals here, Helen. And Helen, I do want to say this. Helen was my first chaperone. When I joined the league in 1949, I was 16 years old, and I was still in high school, and my mom said, well, I don't know, I never heard of any All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, and she says, I don't know where West Baden Springs, Indiana is. That was where spring training was. She says, I don't know if I'm going to send her down there by herself without anybody to go with her. So she says, I'm going to buy a ticket and go with you. So, well, I said, okay. So she came along with me, got on the train, came down with me. Well, after she met Helen and the manager, and she stayed for 2 days, said, yeah, sounds like it's on the up and up to me. And anyway, it was just a great experience. And I have a little story to tell about Helen. Like I said, she was my first chaperone. And when we were, at least those of us that were teenagers, we had to get the okay from the chaperones to be able to go out on a date or even, go to the movies with someone. So anyway, after the game one time, this fella asked me if I'd like to go to the movies, and I said yes, but I have to get permission from the chaperone. Well, he kind of snickered.
So did I.
She was telling me she was in the Marine Corps for 30-some years, and so we really had to toe the line with her. So anyway, I said to him, well, you'll have to ask the chaperone first. And like I said, he said, well, okay. So anyway, he went in to talk to Helen, and I just stayed out there and waited. And pretty soon he came out, he's laughing like anything. And I said, well, what happened? And he says, I didn't want to marry you. I just want to take you to the movies. We had, and on the buses, those bus rides, I tell you, we just had a roaring good time, singing and just living it up. As when you get 20 young girls together, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we did. We had some strict rules, though. I will tell you, they kept us in tow. There were rules of dress codes and things like that. And the one thing that was so frustrating was when we were on the buses, and of course the buses had no restrooms in those days, so we'd have to stop every so often for rest stops. Well, you weren't allowed off the bus unless you got in to put either a skirt or a dress on. Because we traveled in those shorts and Levi's and things like that. So anyway, I always have to, before you got off the bus, put the skirt on, put the dress on. And all you were doing was going in to get a drink of water or going to the restroom or whatever. And the same thing at the hotels when we were on the road and couldn't even come downstairs for a newspaper without putting on a skirt or a dress or something. So those are kind of the things that, yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that leads me to ask, when you were playing in those spurts, how did your legs survive? Was that scene in A League of Our Own with the woman who had the skin of leg, which was real?
That was
Yeah, so how did that work out?
You slide very well. You just did it. You know, you just did it. One wouldn't even heal before you had another one.
Wow.
Yes.
Shirley, did any of the girls use steroids?
Ask the chaperone about that.
What was the dirt like on the infield back then? I mean, today they have it so fine when we go down to the stadium, it's so beautiful and mixed. Was it like that back then?
I don't remember playing in beautiful.
It was really a rough dirt, wasn't it?
Back when we started in the Middle Valley, out here, we're talking in the very, I'll say mid-30s, makes it sound better. And honestly, there was a light bulb at first base, a light bulb at third base, a light bulb at home plate. My sister was the catcher, incidentally, many of you will remember Alma Ziegler. She was our shortstop, but my sister was the catcher. Alma was the shortstop. I played center field. Literally, there were squashes out in Glendora that you would run around. And my sister would stand at home when the ball was hit. Here I am, Lois. Here I am. Throw the ball, and those are how you started, when you started as kids. And incidentally, as kids in high school, believe it or not, as we were, quote, playing organized ball. And of course, we're in high school and we belong to the GAA, Girls Athletic Association. And we could play our various high schools in our district. And we all, shall I say, officers, the secretary of the little GAA, we were all removed from the Girls Athletic Association because we played baseball outside of school. So thank goodness for Chapter 9. Girls got scholarships. When that started, my friend was smart, I'm sure a lot of you remember her. She said, they send you to college to play baseball, and we used to have to hide it. It's really wonderful for the girls now, just marvelous.
Last time.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Stephen, you have a question back there.
Did your league ever have women managers or coaches? Never, not even at the end.
There are a couple of chaperones that became managers later. Later, yeah, towards the end of the thing. But they were all men managers.
Yes.
Were your family supportive of your mom to play baseball? I mean, your parents and everyone else in the family, or was it just going out on your own to do that?
In those days, you had to be supportive. It's not like today, if a kid wants to do something, they do it, you know. We had to have our permission and what have you. My mother wouldn't let me out of the house without knowing exactly where I was going when I was coming home, when I had to drink 2 swallows of Coke or 1. That's what took place in those days.
Yes. Back in when you were in the baseball league, who was a role model that you would maybe like to research, or somebody that you look forward to watching play, or something that they did off the field that really made, I mean, I don't know how it was back then, on how you found that. I know today we have TV and we have all that. Was it somebody local? Was it somebody in the league?
Mine was my family, my dad and my brother. Those are the people I looked up to. Marge, I think you too, your brothers. And
My brother's in semi-pro. We just played ball from the time zero. I mean, especially me. I mean, my sister didn't touch a ball, and, it was coated in gold.
When we were in high school and college, there was no mandate for Title IX, which basically was part of the Education Act of, I think, 1972. It was made by a congresswoman who was a school teacher from Oregon. And she wanted girls to have a fair shake at education. It really was not all about athletics, it was about education. And prior to Title IX, President Lyndon Johnson's daughter, after she got married, could not return to her nursing studies at Georgetown University because she was a married woman. And the University of Virginia did not permit any woman, married or single, to study in there. It was a very prestigious school of, I think it was liberal arts and sciences. Anyway, Title IX changed all that. And what it really hit was the idea that women deserve, girls and women deserve equal access to competitive athletics. And the prejudice against that, even in my lifetime, was huge. There were a lot of doctors, a lot of psychologists that said this is a bad idea. It's not healthy for girls to compete, if you can imagine that. And for those of us who were competitive and were athletic, it was tough. So, there's still a lot of battling going on with Title IX. It was a very broad-based law, but it was transformational for women. You see women in law and medicine today that would never be there without Title IX. And, when people get upset with Title IX, if you talk to somebody in wrestling, they tend to go ballistic because a lot of times administrators will cut the wrestling program, the boys' wrestling program, in favor of the girls' program because they say legally they have to have equity. I would suggest that a lot of times it's a lack of imagination on the part of administrators to be proactive in the first place and to stay ahead of the lawsuit or the pressure that comes and, find a way. So that's what anybody, did I miss anything on Title IX? Yes.
I was just wondering, were you guys ever able to wear pants while playing baseball or softball, or did you always have a dress or skirt?
Oh, she wanted to know if they always had to wear a dress or a skirt to play baseball or softball.
No.
Right? Yeah.
We wore shorts.
Either that or we go home.
In the league.
In the league, you have to wear the skirt.
Yeah.
You have choice.
No, all
Baseball.
Now, the only thing I ever did in baseball, I have no glorious stories to tell, because I just played street ball in New York City with the kids that showed up that day. And on Sundays, my father didn't allow me to wear jeans. I had to wear a skirt.
we wore
Because I don't know why.
shorts, satin shorts.
Pardon?
They were made, all the uniforms at our Gator Field and here in California, we had a seamstress or designer actually, and she designed our uniforms for each club, and they were all very short shorts. They were made out of satin. I wish I brought some today. And we also had a pair of longs for shorts you could play in.
That was in California.
A great deal of thought went into what women did and should wear to play sports, especially, and not just limited to the league. More than 100 years ago, there was a big controversy over bloomers, which were revolutionary. And even after their invention, it took probably 30 or 40 years before women were accepted on the diamond wearing bloomers. So, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to throw this out. I was talking to a retired sports writer named Fred Davis, and he asked me he's looking for answers to this question. He's a big fan of the old St. Louis Browns. He's in their fan club. There's still a fan club. He's been on the club's been defunct for 60 years. J.W. Porter, who played for the Browns, told me this story. Manager Marty Marion had the St. Louis Browns play in 1953 a girls' pro team in South Bend or Fort Wayne, Indiana. They were losing badly later in the game, and manager Marion told the team, if you lose to these girls, we're not going to Cleveland tomorrow. he's trying to confirm that that's true. And he said the Browns eventually rallied and did win the game. They didn't have their first string in, and they figured they could, win without it. And when they were losing, they brought them in and rallied and won. So if anybody, I don't want to take any time up from the discussion, but if anybody has information on that or contact, please let me know afterwards, and I'll put you in touch with Fred Davis. So, other comments? Yes.
Well, as a graduate of the University of Virginia, and I can attest to it, there were no women there until 1971. I think it was Patsy Mink, by the way, the Title IX. With Title IX, do you ever see it expanded? I mean, even more? I know that it's controversial enough as it is, but the reality is there are a tremendous number of women who love playing sports, all sports. Any notion of it possibly even expanding even more, or is it just entirely based on money?
I just don't know. Certainly with the new administration that we have now, it's more hopeful. Not all administrations have been equally supportive of Title IX. Money is definitely an issue. It's tough.
I hope it never comes up. I think the men should play with men and the women should play with men, or women. And for us to try to compete with a man, it's ridiculous.
But what do you do if you're a girl in high school and there's no other place to play baseball? That's their problem.
See, that's the difference between now and when I was playing. Because they had organized softball, women's softball, and men's softball or baseball, whatever. I didn't care whether I played men's baseball. I played a lot. My brother was semi-pro, and we played catch or whatever. And I didn't go and because it helped me more than anything. It's to play, pepper or something,
sure.
Or having to. But not because I wanted to compete against the men's team. I didn't have any idea well, my parents wouldn't allow me anyway, but I think girls that want to play against men's team is wrong.
But do they really want that so much, or is it just that they want to play baseball and that's the only game where they get into it? I agree with you.
Yeah.
Don't they have playgrounds anymore that the kids just go out and play, or is everything organized like a little league or t-ball? Kids, don't they just go to the playground? No. Like we did.
We have this lady back here with the American Legion. Can we put an all-women's team together and compete in a league?
The American Legion Baseball in California is essentially supporting of Little League teams with monetary donations. You kind of adopt a team, and they play under the American Legion Baseball title in the league. It is not American Legion Post getting out there and putting teams together. That's not at all what American Legion Baseball is now. So I don't see any hope of doing something like that either. But you have to kind of look at that and just, I don't know what the answer to it is.
I think that if we did something like that, and the girls start beating up on the all boys teams because they're all girls, I mean, it's going to be a slap in their faces.
I'm not a person that wants a mixed ball team either. I think there's a certain amount of reality that comes into play that, either in my own perspective, I don't even go to Angel baseball games anymore. And I don't support professional baseball anymore. If all we're doing is shooting hormones in our body, it isn't about the love of the game at all. And it's about $45 million for a couple of years of baseball. I've got no interest in that kind of sport. If I want to play ball, I'll be happy to go down to the ballpark and play ball. But I think sports has completely gone upside down at this point in time, and we're just going to have to weather it out until we get back to playing good old ball. And I don't know that that'll ever happen.
That's a good positive, too, for the people in this room. Softball is one of the only Olympic sports to never have a positive drug test. So it's become an Olympic sport.
Yes.
When we talk about Major League, that's one reason why they started that reviving baseball in the inner city, the RBI leagues, where all the Major League teams are actually funding and supplying. They actually supply the league with uniforms. They supply them with bats, helmets, everything these kids need. It's run through the Boys and Girls Clubs of Orange County and all the different Boys and Girls Clubs throughout the United States. And the Angels actually put $100,000 last year and every year into this to fund this. So 650 kids, and when I started there was 300. There's 650 now. And growing every year on this. Kids with no money, no nothing. You don't have to have a penny debt. There's no politics. They don't push the issue of winning. They don't push the issue. They're trying to build kids. And they're spending lots of money because they realize exactly what you're saying. You see the Major League end of it where these people only care about money. But then on the other hand, these same Major League players come out and give their time up to work with kids and that. But you just don't hear about it because it never makes the headlines. Only the bad Manny Ramirez or Alex Rodriguez and all this kind of bad stuff only makes headlines. But believe me, they are putting out a lot of money and a lot of effort to make the future. I mean, reviving baseball in the city was started in Compton. And they actually have a facility now because these major leaguers realize the inner city kids are being left behind and they have a right, just like our rich. I live in Anaheim Hills. There's not a kid in RBI in Anaheim Hills. Why? Because dad can play and pay for, a private team, private lessons, private everything. But yet you see these kids out there that have to give their glove back at the end of the game because they don't even have the glove. If they didn't get their cleats, they didn't get everything supplied. And that's what makes it so nice to work with the Angels on that, because I see the giving end of it that most people don't think of that way.
Yeah, well, I just as a follow-up, I have a 14-year-old, and I'm glad that I wish she was a little more competitive, but I understand why she's not. She has other gifts. But the most important reason to play sports at all is the personal discipline and the requirement for teamwork and setting schedules and running seasons and long-term commitments to things, and it's a self-disciplined kind of way of life. And I'm glad that she didn't choose to play ball in elementary school because what I saw was a bunch of parents going loony because their kids were playing ball. And I frankly don't need that. So if I could see people that are parents that were behaving nicely, it might be a different story, but I think that our overall society problems have created some issues where we can't just play for the love of the game. It's all about competition and winning and not about the love of the game or the discipline or anything else.
I would say that's one of the things we lost when we got highly supervised baseball and softball leagues. The ability of kids to go out on the street and pick up and choose up, and everybody knew who fit in where on the team, and you worked it out, and no parent came along and supervised one thing, and it was a beautiful experience. I like RBI because I think it gets back more to that kind of thing. The kids that show up want to be there, and they get the mentoring that people like I never got. You do get coaching, you do learn the fundamentals of the game. Coco Chris, isn't he one of the guys that came out of RBI?
Yep.
Are there any others coming through?
All the guys, when you see the commercials on TV, they all come out.
Okay.
Every guy that's in those commercials. So when you start to watch now, you're going to see all the guys that have come out of RBI that are big league names in the Philippines.
We tend to TiVo, so we kind of miss those commercials. Name a few of them.
We got a new guy the other day.
Yeah, but
It's on the Detroit Tigers. This year's team.
if you care about youth baseball and you want to see kids given a chance, the RBI is a great program.
They don't care if you win or lose.
Yeah.
The only time it really matters is when All-Stars come. And they've actually sponsored a nationwide tournament at every division. They have girls and boys softball national tournaments. And you actually win the regionals, and then you go to a national tournament paid for by Major League Baseball. And that's the only time where it becomes competitive, of course, because you've taken your elite and you put them into a competitive environment. But when it comes to the season, nobody really cares who wins or loses. And the coaching staff out there, every year now, I mean, they're taking staff in the Boys and Girls Club. So if you never follow the Boys and Girls Club, they're there to teach the kids life lessons, not to teach them how to compete in a sport.
Yes. How were you recruited? How did you find out about the beginnings of the league and get involved in the league? I mean, was it something like we saw in the movie where they just came around by train and they said, oh, we're going to form a league?
It was advertised in our local newspaper that they were holding tryouts.
Yeah, I was recruited for the National Professional Softball League back in Chicago at the time. And they sent scouts out just like in the movie. He had to come to my home and convince my mother that he was going to take care of me as if I was a nun in the Catholic Church. And she finally said it was okay to go. So I got my suitcase with all the rope around it, and away I went to Chicago on the train from California. Wow. Scared to death.
Of course, Southern California had a fantastic softball leagues. I mean, there were some in Orange County, some in, Maybelle started one, and I played for the Orange Lionettes, and we had, and then Los Angeles had a great, softball league. And that's how I started, playing organized softball.
Maybelle, I'm going to ask you, didn't you play at Theater Field with us? We had actually softball back in the mid to late 30s, was the largest sport in Southern California. We had our, I've got a cup. We had our own, not just the girls, the men had their own newspaper. We had the examiner tournaments that filled Ridley Field out here. And let's see, that was the main field. It was at Sunset and Ivar. The whole field built for softball, men's and girls. Then when they had to tear that down and put in girls' perils, they moved to Clifton, Fairfax. And it was there in 1938 that the teams were picked to go to Japan. And incidentally, if any of you go to Japan and see if it's still there, in the Japanese regular Hall of Fame, there is a section talking about the girls' tour there in 1938 in the Japanese Hall of Fame.
There was a question in the back. Yes.
How many different teams were involved in this whole process? And when you were chosen, what were your emotions? And did you realize that you were going to be something of a part of history that is so cool to so many?
It started, of course, with the 4 original teams that the movie showed. And then I think the last year there were 10 teams when they finally ended up. When it was in the newspaper that there were tryouts, my brother showed me, and he said, hey, look, they're having tryouts for a baseball league. And he says, why don't you go down and try out? Oh, God. I said, no, I wasn't going to go down there. I was scared to death. So anyway, he took the day off of work and took me down there. He says, well, we'll just go down and sit in the stands. He said, you don't have to go down. Just go down and watch. He knew I was not going to sit in that stand for very long. And I didn't. Once I got down there and saw everyone out there playing, I went right down.
Now look at you.
She's pitiful.
I want to make a comment about what we were talking about before about the girls. I agree wholeheartedly with Marge. I always thought that boys have a little league. Why can't we start a girls' little league? And let instead of girls having to play on a boys' little league team, why can't we start the girls out young like they start the boys out young? I think if the girls are brought up young in baseball and learn baseball fundamentals and things like that, there's no reason they can't. And I
like to think that there are that many girls that would want to play baseball. And I can't understand why they can't have girls Little League, just like they have boys Little League.
Well, that's how I started. Is Orange County had a softball league for girls, and Los Angeles had a tremendous league there too.
And I also agree with sandlot. I like sandlot baseball. You just get out there, get out there and shut up. And not have to worry about whether you're going to lose or win. Not that we weren't competitive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, nobody likes to lose. But still, not having to have someone on your back all the time. Why did you strike out? Why would you want to swing at that? That kind of stuff.
As I wanted to. There are pockets in North America where girls can play from, say, age 5 on up into adulthood. The Pawtucket Slaterettes, anybody ever heard of them? They were started in, I think, 1973, and it was, a grassroots thing. It wasn't, organized or supported by Little League or any other institution. It was started by parents who were sick and tired of their girls being shut out of baseball. So they have been playing all these years, and they have stepping stones you do. And now there are mothers and daughters playing on the same adult teams. There's also a woman named Justine Siegel who lives in Toronto, and she has done, God's work, if you will, in organizing girls' baseball and women's baseball. You can go all the way through in Toronto, thanks to people like Justine. And she's not alone up there. The Toronto Blue Jays were very much supportive. They've let them use their field for tournaments. And they also do a lot with women who are umpiring. So there are places. Yes?
I have a question for the two players. What kind of training did you do when you were on the road? And what was kind of like your typical game day? You would get up at one time, what time was the game? Did you train before then? Just...
What was a typical game day?
How did you train?
How did you train? Well, it depended on who you played for. I think it depended on the manager, how you trained. I know I played with Bill Allington in Rockford, and Bill, when you played with Bill Allington, you trained all the time. And if you missed curfew or were fined in any way, you trained extra. So anyway, but usually it was, our games were night games, and so the day was to get up, whatever, again, depended on the player, how they want to get up, an early lunch, dinner type of thing, and then to the ballpark. And we played 7 days a week, double headers on Sunday. Everybody prayed for rain. It was a full schedule,
the dear Lord was very busy a lot of times when everybody was praying for rain. Any more comments?
Did you take etiquette classes as a team like they showed in the
No, that was about the first 2 years. Were you there at the time, Pancho?
Yeah, but we found some excuse to miss it.
Pancho was older than we are, so not really.
I still have an 8 handicap.
Yeah, she's still a great golfer. She's still got an 8 handicap. Can you believe her at her age?
Is that a Cleveland Indians fan back there?
It is, right?
Go ahead.
I know you girls played hard, and you certainly weren't paid anywhere close to what you were worth. Can you talk about the pay scale and how it was derived as to who got what?
Oh, well, golly, those times we thought we were millionaires. We made as much as the ball players in AA, and we thought we were rich. I got $65 a week, and I thought that was one heck of a lot of money during those days, believe me, it was. Made more than my father.
Well, I want to follow up on, there was a question from back there. Did you have any idea that you were becoming a part of history and that in 2009 you would be talking to us?
No, absolutely no. But actually, when we started realizing it was when the movie was made, and that's when it all came out. And it wasn't for the movie, we'd still be ex-ball player.
Was that, who put together the movie? Was that Penny Marshall?
Penny Marshall.
Producer?
Yeah, she was something else. She was something else.
She had trouble raising the money in Hollywood for that film because nobody thought anyone would go to see a film about a bunch of women in the 1940s playing baseball. And it turned out to be one of the top 10 financially successful films of that year. And it's gone on, I'm not going to get the term right, I want to say it's one of the top grossing baseball films of all time. If not, I don't think, it may be the most, I don't want to say that for sure.
Yeah, and Shirley's still getting royalties in that That's why I make such many comments about her all the time. I understand why I'm saying them.
Though they should go to Havana Cuba for spring training some year.
I'm sorry, no?
They should go to Havana Cuba for spring training some year.
I guess they had quite a time down there.
Especially if you know the language.
And Marsh knew the language.
And Betsy's getting
Oh, here are the stories. Somebody went out the window.
We just got back off our cruise, and on our cruise was a Cuban gal that played for us in the All-American. Her name's Lefty Alvarez. And she still, to this day, can't speak English very well, and she gets her words, and she gets all screwed up, and she gets lost, and she does this and that. Well, she is so funny. We've had so much fun with her. It was her birthday the night before we were going to go sailing. Well, she informed us that she had forgotten her underwear. So, oh my gosh, she said, oh, I have to wash every night and hang this up, and I have to do this, I have to do that. So one of our gals, Michigan, she thought of the idea of going around and getting a pair from every girl. So we held a birthday party for her that night. And we wrapped each individual pieces of underwear. So she started, oh, what's this? What's this? You know, so anyway, she'd open them up, and they would come in these different sizes. Oh, she says, I wear them all. Oh, then we got on the ship. Oh my God, we thought, oh, we better watch the left because we don't know where in the world she's going to go. Well, within 1 hour, we knew everybody on that ship, from one end to the other, about 2,000 people, we knew them by name. Because they'd come up to us, we'd be sitting at the local bar, and have a little libation because we was tired. And, anyway, he said, oh, do you know Lefty? No, we know Lefty. Why? Well, she says she's lost. Anyway, to make a long story short, about 600 people came up and told us that, and finally somebody that told us that in the first place went and found Lefty for us and brought Lefty to us. By that time, we sold 500 calendars.
We need to wrap up.
About 5 minutes if everybody can have concluding comments, and then we can just do a question and answer more informally. You can just chat after the presentation.
Okay, I'm going to pass it down to one of you start.
No, you okay. First of all, what did you do with numbers?
Closing comments. Anything else you didn't get to say?
I didn't get to say it all. I think I said everything I was going to say. But I want to thank all of you for coming. We certainly appreciate it. And thank you so much for being a part of this. We love sharing our stories with you, and we hope you all have a good time. Thanks a lot.
even do that.
Thanks for coming, everybody. I think you've seen how deep the roots of women's love for baseball are and how far back they go. So, next time you're out in the ballpark, I think we're going to play this game too and love this game. Thanks.